Brought to you by Penguin.
Fern, My Story. Written and read by Fern Britton. If I didn't have any of this life, if it was taken from me, I'd go out and find a proper job. I'd make a very good cleaner. I wouldn't want to be a nanny, too much like hard work, but I'd be a very good domestic. I love making things tidy. Of course, I am happy doing what I'm doing at the moment, but Phil and I often talk about what we'll do when we stop. There is so much life to live and so many things I want to do. In the summer, I often wake before the alarm and I lie listening to the birds, dozing and thinking. This is my only quiet time of the day, and it doesn't last long. Fern, it's 5:30. The sound of Phil's voice muffled by the pillow makes me laugh. How does he always know it's time to get up before I do? Do you want a cuppa? A grunt. I'll take that as a maybe, and give myself 10 minutes more. Phil's been my husband now for 7 years, 11 months and 4 days, but he never ceases to surprise me, and, in spite of his pillow talk about pigs and hams, he's as romantic now as when we first met. "I'd like to renew our vows every 5 years, he said the day of our wedding, and I said, "How lovely, yes please." So we got to 5 years, but it just went by the by. It was no big deal. It was like, oh, we didn't quite get that organised. And then yesterday, out of the blue, he said, "Let's do it now. In fact, I've already spoken to the vicar." He'd set it all up. 8 years minus 1 day, to the minute. Midday, 23rd of May, 2008, at St Michael and All Angels in Hughenden Valley. The vicar baptised Winnie, and he's a very nice man. So in just over 3 weeks, for the first time in my life, I'm going to be saying my vows in church. It'll be completely private. Just us and the children. No one else. I remember hearing Bette Midler talking about her husband of many years, and she said, "As much as I love him, I'm not always in love with him." And it does go like phases of the moon. But I will never take Phil for granted. I've been through too much for that. There have been times when I haven't wanted to live another day, when just getting through the hours was more daunting than anything I would ever face again. And the shadow of that fear, that the darkness will return, never really leaves you. It's there to remind you never to waste a moment, never to lose sight of the joy. Slipping out of bed, I pull on my dressing gown, go downstairs to put the kettle on, and let out the hens. We have 2, Sam and Ella, wittily named by the producer who thought they'd be perfect company for Edwina Curry, who did a challenge to live on our studio roof last September with only £200 and a computer, as well as the hens. It's going to be a glorious day, and I'm so incredibly lucky leading this idyllic existence. A job in a million, healthy and happy children, a husband who loves me just as I am, and who regularly reminds me of what he promised nearly 8 years ago on our way to the register office. "I'll always look after you," he said. How did he know, I wonder, just how much that meant to me? My life is full of ghosts, and it's only now, looking back from this place of safety, that I can finally lay them to rest. I bring in the milk in time to see the silver Mercedes come glinting up the track on the dot of 6:30. Tony has been driving me to and from ITV's London studios on the South Bank for the last 10 years, and I could set the clock by him. I take 2 mugs of tea upstairs for my boys, an excuse really to give them a hug and ruffle their hair, and as for my girls, Goosey and Miss Mouse, I kiss their sweet heads and let them sleep on. In 1957, the year I was born, my father made his 3rd film, ironically named The Birthday Present, with a very young Sylvia Sims as his leading lady. He was 33, and it was his first starring role. Tony Britton was on the way up. In the early days, when Dudda's career was just beginning, my parents had been inseparable, living in a succession of theatrical digs and longer-term lets. But once theatre gave way to cinema, a stable home took priority, and my sister Cherry was then coming up for 8. Renting the top floor of my grandmother's house in Ealing must have seemed the perfect solution. Not far from the studios, and company for my mother when Dudda was away, not to mention schools and cousins for Cherry. It was while they were living in Ealing that I came along, a breech delivery, and I was 2 weeks late. But within a few months our little family had moved, my father's film star status demanding something rather grander. Gerrard's Cross in Buckinghamshire was equidistant between the film studios of Denham and Pinewood, and the address of choice for directors and actors on the up, and we were soon ensconced in the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?